Hello. Just recently I've been looking around to see if I can find some great value for money wines from Bordeaux, sort of wines offering real quality without a huge price tag. And I think I've done that pretty well today. The wine concerned is Château Grand Village. It's a 2018 Bordeaux Superieur. And you'd think, well, Bordeaux Superieur, perhaps $10 or something? No, this is a $50 wine. So have I taken leave of my senses? Why do I think this is good value for money? Let's put that in context, shall we? This is a wine made by Jacques and Sylvie Guinaudeau. Who are Jacques and Sylvie Guinaudeau? They're the owners and winemakers at the fabulous Pomerol property, Chateau Lafleur. Lafleur, a tiny 4-hectare property, making say 1,000 cases a year, and the average price currently on Wine Search for the 2018 of Chateau Lafleur Pomerol is $1,500 a bottle. So in that context, a wine from these people, if it is reaching that sort of quality, is great value for money, surely. But we can talk about that. The estate is to the northeast of Fronsac, just beyond the borders of Fronsac itself, in a place called Mouillac. It's a 50-hectare property. They have just short of 20 hectares of vines, about 17 hectares of red and a few hectares of white. It's planted predominantly to Merlot, about 80% Merlot, and the balance is Cabernet Franc. And then the soil types are very similar to those you'll see in Saint-Emilion, particularly, so with predominance of sort of limestones and clay. This particular wine itself is about 78% Merlot, with the balance being Cabernet Franc, the other 22%. So actually quite a high proportion of Cabernet Franc for this particular wine. But in terms of winemaking, and this is where we're, there's quite a high density of planting, which is required for Bordeaux Superieur. So I think it's about 6,000 vines per hectare. Yields are kept low. There's rigorous selection, both at picking and prior to fermentation, before the fruit goes into the vats. The wine is made pretty much as Chateau Lafleur is. There's a high proportion of new oak used. I mean, this wine has about 30% new oak, and the balance second and third fill. Lafleur might be 50-60%, so it's not quite as much. What else? The amount of time it spends in it. She'll spend about a year in oak. Lafleur probably 15-16 months in oak. So it's not quite the same treatment, but it's very similar, and certainly for a wine that's that much cheaper, this is being very well treated. So let's have a look at the wine and see what we think of that there. First thing to say is it's actually not that dark. I mean, it's a beautiful sort of vibrant, deep ruby red with purple hints. It holds its colour well to the rim, but I can see through it fairly easily. As you swirl it, there's some very obvious tears form. I should say the label says that this is 15.5% alcohol, so the idea that Bordeaux Superieur has to have an extra 0.5% of alcohol over ordinary Bordeaux is certainly fulfilled here with abundance. And let's have a look at the aroma, shall we? Oh, that's wonderful, isn't it? There's an intense floral perfumed note there. I mean, it makes me think of peonies and honeysuckle. It reminds me of my parents' garden as a child, actually. But over that, there's a sort of a mulberry red fruit, maybe some more lifted raspberry notes, a touch of sort of sweet spice, a little bit of cinnamon there. Behind all that, maybe there is a little bit of smoky cedar, perhaps a little bit of licoricey dark fruit concentration, but there's plenty in there, and it's vibrant and it's vivid in terms of the aromas. So let's have a taste. The palate is bursting, juicy red fruit. It's that rich mulberry core, maybe a bit of ripe plum, but ripe fresh plum, not overripe. Maybe some hints of raspberry in there with a sort of freshness and a slight spiciness. Again, cinnamon notes. The 15.5% alcohol that I've talked about is, I mean, it's obviously providing warmth and roundness to the palate, but you know, it's a full-bodied wine. But the alcohol is not closing up the finish. It's not making the tannins seem astringent. The tannins have some grip. There's a little bit of sort of spicy, peppery note there, but their fine-grained nature is being surrounded by this juicy fruit and almost a slightly chocolatey texture. They're quite velvety as a result. On the finish, there is lovely freshness, and the red fruit, that mulberry and touches of raspberry, are sort of coming through there. Again, with a sort of a scattering of sweet spice over the top of that. The flavours are lasting really nicely. There's a lovely depth, intensity, and harmony to this wine. I mean, it's 4.5 years old or so, so it should be starting to open up and drink quite nicely now. But it's beautifully together and harmonious, and that makes me think that the wine would very happily last for another 10 years, possibly longer. But probably not in my house, because it's delicious, it really is. So thank you very much for watching. That's Château Grand Village 2018, and if you've enjoyed the video, do watch us again. Bye now.